Hi everyone, and welcome back to Yoga with Rosie. So today we're going to be doing Yin Yoga for sore hips. Now Yin Yoga is the opposite of anything Yang. So Yang is fast and powerful and exercise and quick yoga, and then Yin is kind of relaxing, calming and meditative. So today we're hoping to relax our bodies and meditate a little bit and just kind of soften our bodies into different postures. So we're going to have 10 different poses that we're going to hold for 2 minutes each. If at any point throughout this practice you feel like you're in pain or you want to switch positions, you can move yourself into child's pose or any other position that feels comfortable for you until we move on to the next posture. And also before we start, you kind of want to be at around between a 3 to an 8 out of 10 in each of these poses. So the point of Yin Yoga isn't to push yourself to the maximum and be in pain and really be in agony, because it's going to be 2 minutes per pose, which is actually quite a long time for a yoga pose. So make sure you're somewhere between a 3 and an 8 out of 10. I'd say more 3 to 5 out of 10. And yeah, so let's get started. So the first pose we're going to do is actually just mountain pose. So if we stand up tall, our feet are hips distance apart, and you have nice, straight, strong legs. Lift your shoulders up and back, and your hands come down by your sides with your palms pointing forwards. Now I'm going to stay here for 2 minutes. And what I'd like you to do is just to focus on your breath with your inhales and your exhales. Feel the ground beneath you. Maybe you want to rock back and forwards on your feet, wiggle your toes, and feel the pressure in each of your toes, in the front of your foot, in the back of your foot, until you come to some sort of stillness. And now we're starting here just to feel centered and grounded. So feel the earth beneath you, focus on your breath, tucking your tailbone slightly with a straight spine. Your head is sitting on top of your spine. Again, focusing on the breath. So with the inhale, breathe in. And with the exhale, soften. We'll have about 1 more minute left. Focusing on your body, noticing how you feel after standing here for almost 2 minutes. How do your feet feel? How do your legs feel? Your hips, your back, your chest, how does your body feel standing still? If you want to close your eyes, feel free to do so. And moving from here, we're going to move into a forward fold, Uttanasana. So keeping your feet hips distanced apart, you want to slowly hinge forwards at the hips until you're leaning forwards. You can keep your legs bent. Again, you want to be at about a 3 to 5 out of 10, so you're not really pushing for the floor, you're just kind of hanging, almost hanging from your hips. Any amount is absolutely perfect, so you might be up here, you might be down here. It's going to look different for everybody. So do what feels best for you. You might want to hang still. You might want to maybe hold onto your elbows and stay here. You might also want to twist to the left and twist to the right. Or maybe you want to place your left hand on the floor and start to extend your right arm up above your head for a slight twist. Maybe do the opposite side, so place your right hand on the floor and open up your left side with your left arm above your head. We've done about 1 minute, so we've got 1 minute left. Find any variation here that works for you. I'm actually going to straighten my legs and come up a little bit higher and just hang. Something I like to do is to move my shoulders and kind of wiggle my body a little bit. This makes me feel nice and relaxed. Again, remembering to inhale, and on the exhale, soften your body. Remember to relax your head and your neck, maybe shake your head yes and no. And just do what feels good. So from here, we're going to move into lizard pose on the right hand side. So if you come down onto a tabletop position with your knees underneath your hips and your hands underneath your shoulders, we're going to bring the right foot to the outside of your right hand, and this is your lizard pose. You might want to shuffle your left foot back a little bit. Again, we're about a 3 to 5 out of 10. This is also somewhere maybe you want to bring in your blocks. So I have 2 blocks here. I'm actually going to use these to lift my body up a little bit higher because my hips feel particularly tight today. So if you have blocks, feel free to use them. And we're going to stay in lizard pose for 2 minutes. Remembering to breathe. Again, not pushing yourself too far. If you feel like you're in pain or you're uncomfortable, maybe push back a little bit further, maybe come higher up onto your hands using blocks or different props that you have. So again, you don't want to cause any pain here. The idea is to focus on your breath. Breathe in. And then when you exhale, soften into the pose and let any of that tension just melt away. So throughout this practice and for each of these poses, I encourage you to breathe into your hips. So when you breathe in, just feel any tension that you might feel, and then on the exhale, try to let go of that tension. Try to soften your body. Again, you might want to move into different variations of this pose. Focusing on the breath. If you want to close your eyes, that's an option as well. Not long to go. So from here, we're going to move into pigeon pose on the right hand side. So if you remove the blocks, if you have them in front of you, and then slowly heel toe your right foot behind your left hand. Your knee can come down, and then you kind of move closer to the floor into pigeon pose. If you want to remain here, remain lifted, you can do. Otherwise, you can move onto blocks, onto your elbows, or onto the mat onto your elbows, or maybe even bring your forehead to the mat. Again, with yin yoga, we're going about 3 to 5 out of 10. You're not pushing all the way. You shouldn't be in pain here. So breathing into your hips, inhaling and exhaling to soften. This is a great pose for if you spend a lot of time sitting at a desk, working from home. This should be a really good one to release any tension, especially as we're staying here for 2 minutes. Something I personally like to do in pigeon pose is to kind of rock side to side. This might feel good for you as well, or maybe you want to stay still. Remembering to focus on your breath. Deep inhales and deep exhales. If this feels like too much for you, feel free to push back upwards or go back into a different pose like child's pose. So when we're ready, we're going to remove the blocks out of the way, press back up and bring our right foot back into tabletop position. And you might want to find some movement here just to kind of move the hips that we've just stretched. It might feel good to find some movement. Pressing back into a child's pose, pressing forwards into upward facing dog. Let's do a couple of rounds of child's pose and upward facing dog just to kind of move the hips. So back into tabletop position. We're going to do our left side, so bring your left foot to the outside of your left hand for your lizard pose. Again, you might want to move your right leg backwards slightly. Again, we're staying within that 3 to 5 out of 10, so you don't want to push yourself too far. If you feel like it's too far, bring your right knee forwards again. And we're going to stay here for 2 minutes in lizard pose on the left hand side. So again, focusing on the breath. Breathing into your hips and exhaling any tension to soften up your hip joints. Again, if you want to use the blocks here, you can do. If you want to elevate your body, lift your chest, you can use the different variations of the blocks. Or you can use them to come down onto your forearms. That feels like too much for me today, so I'm going to press back up again. And just find what feels good for you today in this position. I know 2 minutes feels like a long time, but it's good, honestly. It's good for the body. Stretches your bones, your fascia, your ligaments. When we're ready, we're going to move into pigeon pose. So I'm just going to move my blocks out of the way and heel toe my left foot behind my right hand. And then the knee comes down to the floor. And our right leg kind of moves back slightly into pigeon pose. Again, you have the option of staying with your arms straight and your chest lifted. You might want to use the blocks to lean on with your forearms. You might also want to move the blocks out of the way and bring your forearms down to the mat, or even bring your head down to the mat. So find what feels good for you. Again, should be about a 3 to 5 out of 10. You shouldn't be in agony here. This should just be nice and relaxing. Again, I'm kind of rocking side to side. This is what feels good for me, so you might want to try this, or you might want to stay still. On the inhale, if you notice where the tension is, and then on the exhale, try to release any tension and try to soften your body into the pose. If you want to close your eyes here, you can do so. It might help you feel more grounded and more connected to your body and your breath. So from here we're going to move into frog pose. If you press back up into tabletop position again. Again, you might want to find some movements, maybe swaying from side to side, maybe pressing forwards into upward facing dog or cobra, and then back into child's pose. Let's do this a couple of times, moving back and forwards. Let's do one more going forwards and back into child's pose. And back up through center. We're going to move into frog pose. So for this one, I recommend that you are this way on your mat so that you're kind of facing the long edge of the mat. You want to come into a tabletop position and slowly bring your knees further out to the sides. And you want to keep your ankle in line with your knees and your knees in line with each other. And your feet are facing outwards. Now this is going to look different for everybody. Again, you don't want to come too far down and be in pain. You want to do something where it's about 3 to 5 out of 10, like I've said plenty of times during this video. So we're going to stay here. Again, if you want to use blocks, you can introduce them so that your chest is a little bit higher, just lifted ever so slightly. If you want to come further down, you can come down onto your forearms and just play about with different variations of how far out your knees are. So this feels like a tiny bit too much for me for 2 minutes. I've come in a little bit narrower, and I'm actually going to come back up again. And for me today, this is perfect. So wherever you are is brilliant. We're doing it. We're doing yoga, guys. We're stretching. So we're going to stay here for 2 minutes, like I said. Focusing on your breath. If you want to close your eyes, feel free to do so. And you really want to feel the tension, and then with the exhales, soften the tension and gently move more into the pose. I can feel my knees moving wider without me pushing. It's just more kind of gravity taking hold, I guess, doing its job. And because I'm breathing into it and relaxing, there's no tension in my body, there's no resistance. It's just gently stretching my hips. Okay, so when we're ready, we're going to slowly press back up. You might want to slowly bring your knees in together, and we're going to lay on our front for Sphinx Pose. Now this one is less focused on the hips, but I feel like it's a good stretch to do anyway. So you're going to lay on your tummy and then bring your elbows underneath your shoulders and rest on your forearms with your fingers pointing out in front of you. And your spine is curved and your chest is lifted and your gaze is either forwards or maybe looking up slightly. So if this feels good for you, you might want to stay here. There is of course the option to bring a blanket and place that underneath you here to help support your body. And we're going to stay here for 2 minutes again, focusing on the breath, focusing on the body and noticing which parts of your body are working in this moment. Is it your shoulders? Is it your arms? Is it your back, your chest? Where do you feel any tension in this pose? Can you breathe into it, and can you exhale and release some of that tension and soften into the pose? Again, you don't want to push yourself too far. You might not want to be up here with your hands pressing all the way. You don't want to be, you know, causing any pain. This is more of a gentle practice today. When we're ready, we're going to lower down and roll over onto our backs for happy baby pose. Just going to move my blocks out of the way. So if you lower down onto your back, you want to bring your knees into your chest and then start to bring your feet into your hands. If this isn't an option for you, you can bring your hands behind your knees. And you want to be gently bringing your elbows down to the floor, gently bringing your knees into your armpits and your feet down. Again, breathing into this, focusing on the breath. This is a nice hip opener, this one. And maybe you want to stay still, or maybe you want to find some movement. You could begin to rock gently from side to side, massaging your lower back. You could maybe straighten one leg and then straighten the other leg, even if it doesn't go completely straight. That's absolutely fine. So again, with the inhale, you want to notice where the tension is in your body. And with the exhale, soften the body. Soften into the pose. Focus on your breathing. Focus on how your body feels. And focus on this present moment. When we're ready, we're going to start to rock back and forwards until we come to a seated position. This massages your spine. And we're going to come up to seated and bring our feet in together so that the soles of our feet are touching. And we're going to move into Badakanasana. So here you have three options. Option one is to bring your hands onto your knees and keep your chest lifted. Option two is to bring your hands behind you and puff up your chest, arching your spine. And option three is to lean forwards with your hands either on the floor in front of you, or maybe your hands are interlaced and underneath your toes, or maybe you want to press your elbows onto your knees. Either way, we're going to stay here for 2 minutes. Again, you don't want to be at a 10 out of 10. You want to be anywhere between a 3 and a 5. And this is a really great hip opener. And it's something you can kind of do, honestly, any time during the day. If you feel like your hips are a little bit sore, you can get into any of these three positions. So leaning forwards, chest lifted with your hands on your knees, or with your hands behind you with your chest lifted and your spine slightly arched. For me, I'm going to be leaning forward. This is always my favourite pose, my favourite variation of this pose. So again, inhale and exhale to soften. Focusing on your breath, focusing on how your body feels today. Closing your eyes if that feels good and safe. Otherwise, keep a soft gaze in front of you, not particularly looking at anything. going to stay here for one more inhale and exhale. So deep inhale, long exhale, and then let's press back up into a seated position. You might want to bring your hands onto your knees, or maybe your hands can come in prayer hands. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I really hope you enjoyed this yin yoga for hips. If you did, please make sure you subscribe for more videos, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!